Our story begins with a guy named Haruto who had a rough time in junior high. The bullying he faced had a lasting impact on him, leading him to become a shut-in. This pattern continued into his adult life, and he lost hope for his future, living aimlessly without any purpose. One fateful day, while lying in bed and watching anime on his phone, something extraordinary happened. A strange light emanated from the device, and before he knew it, he was transported to a different dimension. There, he was greeted by a goddess who congratulated him and informed him that he had been chosen for reincarnation. Haruto was initially confused but soon realized that it meant he had passed away in his room when he saw the light. The goddess revealed that he would be sent to a new world where magical abilities were everything. To help him in his new life, she granted him overpowered skills and advised him to make the most of this opportunity. However, Haruto had other plans. He wanted to live a peaceful and quiet life, using his newfound abilities to enjoy his preferred shut-in lifestyle. With his decision made, he pleaded with the goddess to reincarnate him. In a flash of light, he regained consciousness, but this time in the body of a baby. Surprisingly, he still retained his sense of self from his previous life, so he couldn't help but complain a little about having to start from infancy. As he lay there, Haruto was soon surrounded by smiling faces. The king was informed that his wife had given birth to a healthy baby boy, and everyone rejoiced. Haruto was delighted to learn that he had been born into royalty. Shortly after his birth, a sorceress arrived with an orb to assess his magical aptitude. The king expected his son to have a high level of mana, given his lineage, but to everyone's surprise, Haruto was only a level 2 and didn't possess any elemental powers. This meant he could only use barrier magic. The king and queen couldn't believe that their prime genetics had seemingly produced such a disappointment. They worried about what their subjects would think if they found out about their underwhelming child. So, they quickly decided to declare that their son hadn't survived the birth and ordered him to be disposed of in a faraway forest. Even the sorceress found this extreme, but the king silenced her and sent the baby away. Unrecognized to them, the goddess watched on frustrated, realizing that no one recognized Haruto's true power. The measuring device in this world only went up to double digits, and she had also forgotten to give him an element. The goddess informed her colleague that she had set Haruto's level to 1002, and the other goddess scolded her for overdoing the overpowered image this time. Meanwhile, Haruto found himself abandoned in a baby basket deep in the forest. Though he struggled to move due to his age, he decided to teach himself how to use barrier magic. To his surprise, it was easier than he expected. He created a cube-like shape, using magic, and played around with it. He then levitated himself using the barrier, realizing its versatility and minimal mana consumption. His joy was short-lived when a flame wolf suddenly appeared and attacked him. However, his barrier protected him, proving to be incredibly sturdy. Haruto decided to create smaller barriers and hurled them at the wolf, but it didn't do much damage. He then came up with the idea to create barriers around the trees and pulled them down on the creature. Although it did more damage, the wolf managed to get back up. In a last-ditch effort, Haruto took a chunk of earth and brought it down on the wolf. Just before the land mass hit, the wolf surrendered, surprising Haruto by speaking. To his further astonishment, he discovered that the wolf was a female. They both calmed down, and the wolf confessed that she had planned to eat him to replenish her lost mana. However, she was impressed by Haruto's strength and couldn't bring herself to harm him. Unable to respond verbally, Haruto created a barrier that turned his thoughts into sound. He introduced himself as Haruto, preferring to use that name instead of his birth name due to pronunciation difficulties. He explained the events that led to his current predicament. The wolf, named Flay, sensed that Haruto's mana far exceeded human limits, leading her to believe he was the reincarnated Demon King. In a bid to sound cooler, Haruto accepted the title of Demon King, surprising Flay. Haruto realized how gullible Flay was, as she even rolled over, ready to be defeated by him. Finding her behavior excessive, he promised not to harm her if she didn't attack him. Touched by his generosity, Flay pledged not to attack him and addressed him as Lord. Haruto bestowed upon her the name Flay and formed a pact with her, making him her master. Despite his shock at this turn of events, Haruto collapsed due to a lack of breast milk. He informed Flay of his issue, and she transformed into a human female, hoping to assist her new master. However, her efforts were in vain, and they engaged in a conversation interrupted by the sound of someone approaching. To ensure their privacy, Haruto created a barrier that allowed him to communicate with Flay without the stranger hearing them. He instructed Flay to ask who was approaching, and a man named Gold stepped forward, expressing his intention to take Haruto. Flay immediately refused, not even giving him a chance to explain. Gold questioned her right to refuse, but she informed him that Haruto had become her master, making him belong to her. Haruto was puzzled because he didn't recall agreeing to this arrangement. Gold revealed that the child belonged to a relative of his, and he had come to reclaim him after the circumstances that led to his abandonment had played out. Flay couldn't understand why the family would come back for something they had abandoned. Gold tried to show his concern by offering a pouch of breast milk, which made Haruto happy. However, Flay didn't listen and refused it. Gold then narrated a tragic story of how he and his wife had lost their baby in the past. He believed that every child who survived the dangerous ordeal of birth deserved a chance to live. Touched by this sad tale, Flay agreed to the terms and conditions, becoming Gold's attendant. To seal the deal, Gold destroyed the baby's basket, making it appear as though wild animals had attacked Haruto. 9 years passed, and an older Haruto joined his new family for breakfast, greeting everyone with a cheerful "good morning." He revealed that his original plan was to leave as soon as he was no longer reliant on breast milk. However, his adopted family had been so kind to him that he decided to stay. Although his younger sister, Char, still seemed a bit distant, he hoped to change that. Flay had faithfully played her role as Haruto's assistant over the years. Haruto found it peculiar that Char was more open to Flay and eager to play with her. Recognizing Char as his priority, Haruto ordered Flay to play with his younger sister. As he watched them play outside, his mother joined him and commented on Char's distance, attributing it to the girl not knowing how to act around boys. Haruto pondered whether Char could sense his true age and felt a bit downcast. His mother consoled him, suggesting that he show Char he could be a reliable older brother. She reminded him that as the heir to their estate, he should spend more time outside instead of locking himself in his room. She promised to do everything in her power to ensure that they got along. Haruto headed to his room, lying in bed as he contemplated his escape. Standing over him was a clone of himself, a project he had been working on for 9 years. He had studied barrier magic extensively to create this realistic robot copy, though he hadn't been able to make it talk or move. He realized that if he wanted to leave without causing sadness, he would have to create a clone of Flay as well, a whole new challenge. His thoughts were interrupted when Gold knocked on his door, asking him to come with him for a moment. Haruto knew this wouldn't end well for him. Gold led him to a training compound and informed him that he would be teaching him how to use a sword. Haruto made it obvious with a grumpy face that he wasn't interested, but Gold pointed out his low mana level and the need to develop other skills. Gold asked Haruto if he had any interest in other fields, and though tempted to reveal his love for being a shut-in, he mentioned his interest in studying ancient magic instead. Gold was surprised by Haruto's potential and handed him a wooden sword, suspecting an affinity for swordsmanship. Haruto noticed the aura emanating from Gold and realized that his adopted father was a seasoned warrior known as the earth-shattering Warhammer. Knowing he couldn't land a hit on Gold, Haruto put up a barrier to compensate for his alleged poor physical abilities. He made an attack, which Gold barely dodged. The impact shattered Haruto's blade, leaving a crater. Gold, astonished, decided to test his suspicions further. Charging at Haruto, he launched an attack, but Haruto effortlessly dodged it with style. Gold was taken aback, as it should have been impossible for someone under level 30 to dodge like that. Haruto himself felt that something was off about himself. He remembered using an orb that measured mana in the hundreds, hoping he would be at that level. However, it still showed as red. Disappointed, he couldn't fathom having a level in the thousands, considering that 77 was the highest recorded level among humans. Unbeknownst to him, the goddess had made him overpowered, and his lack of an element made him extremely efficient in using magic. Haruto wondered if this overpowered skill was what the goddess had granted him. Gold suspected that Haruto might have an innate awakening but kept his theory to himself. He proposed they continue training to turn Haruto into an elite swordsman. Meanwhile, Char watched them, overhearing her parents' conversation about the possibility of Haruto being a demon and their concern about Flace's protectiveness over him. Char was certain that her brother wasn't a demon, and her parents discussed the mysterious powers of the royal insignia. Regardless of the truth, they promised to protect Haruto and provide him with a happy life. The episode then comes to a close.